and people in hockey talk about he's the greatest in the game as if nobody's second. And that's sort of what I push back on. But Lebitard on his show today uh, tried to get me to say that McDavid choked in this final. He didn't.
We will check in with someone I was going to say we've wanted to have on this show for a long time, but I can only speak for myself. From the Miami Herald, it is a great American columnist. His name is Greg Cote. There he is. There's that smile. Hi, Mr. Cote.
How are you?
Sir, it is an honor. Two of the three of us have been trying to get you on the podcast forever, and it's just one of us who wears hats.
Let the record state.
Called you a slur at some point. It was not good stuff.
I did not call you a slur. I just called you a senile old man, which I know that you took offense to, and I did apologize for. And let the record state that I said we should have you on today.
Okay, well, thank you both. And for the record, calling someone a senile old man is not a slur unless they're an old man. Like if I called you senile, it'd be like pointless to say because you're a young man. But anyway, that's all forgiven. Water under the bridge, and whatever else they say about when things are all forgiven. So happy to be here.
How old do you think Pete is?
I barely recognize him without his white hat. I would say 34.
Wow. Oh, damn. Clocked me.
Yeah.
I'm a week away. I'm exactly 1 week away from being 34. So you are
wrong.
You are not senile at all. You've got your wits, my friend.
Very sharp.
Let me ask. Do you feel validated for calling Connor McDavid McOverrated before the Stanley Cup final for a second year in a row, and now he's got 0 for 2 in the Stanley Cup final?
I'm not sure if validated is the right word. Vindicated, I'm not sure either. I'm pleased. I mean, anytime I write something, particularly something that's controversial and invites people to call me an idiot or senile, and it turns out to at least arguably be true, that makes me feel pretty good. I mean, and honestly, I feel better about it now than I did a year ago, because a year ago, it went to 7 games. I think McDavid had a better series than he did, better final than he did just now. So, I feel pretty good about what I said, calling him McOverrated in the context, as you guys know, of him needing to win a Stanley Cup in order to be on that GOAT-like upper echelon where everybody seems to already be putting him, even though he hasn't earned it.
Matthew Tkachuk says after the game that Connor McDavid will win the Stanley Cup, and then adds, wherever it is. Is that just quintessential Matthew Tkachuk to you, that he's still continuing to get in little digs and fuck with Oilers fans?
You know what? A year from now, right, we may be talking about where's Connor going to play next. And, I'm not an evangelist for the Florida Panthers, but if I'm Connor McDavid right now looking for a path to my long elusive Stanley Cup, I'm looking at Southern Florida going, they got it going on down there. They know what they're doing. They know how to construct a roster that's 4 lines deep. They know how to play ferocious defense. Why wouldn't I go there? Why wouldn't any player in the NHL right now consider the Florida Panthers if he were a free agent?
Can I please ask you how much extra money you have made from not paying state income tax in Florida?
That's a good question. I'm sure athletes and agents know that answer better than I do. I'd have to ask my wife, who's the smart one in the family. But you're right. That's a factor that should not be ignored, and that's why I think the Panthers' current free agents, and the big 3 are Sam Bennett, Marchand, and Aaron Ekblad. I think there's a good chance they can maybe finagle a way to re-sign all 3 of them, because all 3 of them love playing down here, and I don't think that's just talk. I think they really do.
Do you think where do you stand on the Panthers dynasty talk, and how close are they to being firmly in that territory?
I think it's a legitimate topic right now. I think if you ask a year ago, the prerequisite is you got to at least win a second in a row before the dynasty talk starts. But the reason I think it's legit now is that it's not just the 2 championships in a row. It's the 3 finals in a row. And the year before that, they win the President's Trophy. So they've had 4 years in a row of being a pretty elite franchise in hockey. And I look at the ridiculously early betting odds for next season, and I believe the Panthers are the co-favorite to a three-peat. So yeah, I don't think it's crazy. I don't deal with hyperbole much. I try not to, but to raise the dynasty talk right now, I don't think is illegitimate. I think it's right on the table. A lot of it depends on how you consider what's a dynasty. I don't think we're ever going to have the 5 or 6 Stanley Cups in a row back in the day, but I think they're a budding dynasty right now.
The last dynasty, for what it's worth, recognized by the Hall of Fame is the 80s Oilers, or the Gretzky's Oilers, because it went into 1990. And that was, I want to say, that was 5 of 7. And
Yeah.
if a 5 of 7 happens, obviously that's a dynasty.
Yeah.
Like that is, I just think that it's becoming too common now. 3 times in the last 2 years, or in the last 10 years, I'm sorry, teams have won back to back. So there's been kind of seedlings of dynasties, and then it turns over, which is why the next couple of months with how they handle Marchand and Bennett and Ekblad, and I've got my own thoughts we're going to talk about later on the show on that, is going to go a long way, because I think they do have a path to, if they want to, they can win 3 in a row. They can win like 4 of 5, or do they want to become the New England Patriots and really open this thing up and have your core pieces, keep a little flexibility, and sprinkle guys around through there? What would you do if you were them, Greg?
My big concern, I know they at the top they have a great ownership team. Bill Zito, I think, is the GM of the year. Paul Maurice finally is showing people how great he was as a coach for the past 2 decades plus. And I think the roster is beautifully constructed. I would try to keep everything together. My big issue is Bobrovsky. How much longer can you count on him being your elite goaltender? That's one of the reasons you guys know that Florida's the champion again, is that Edmonton had 2 goalkeepers, which means they didn't have any, and Bobrovsky was the best goaltending force in that series. But at his age, can you count on him to still be Bob 2 years from now? So I think looking to the next goaltender is an issue for them. But I think they can re-sign all 3 of those guys. And why wouldn't they keep the team together, keep the band together to try at least for one or 2 more cups?
Even if they're not entering into the dynasty talk, I think you can say that at the very least, this Cup team was almost as impressive as a lot of those dynasty teams that are firmly there, like the Islanders and the Oilers from the 80s. I mean, their plus 39 goal differential is tied for the 4th best in postseason history. And it's with all those actual dynastic teams.
And that's after having like a plus 39 goal differential through the entire regular season. And
Right.
I know it's not exactly plus 39, but they did some real dynasty type team behavior. The LeBron James sort of, we're not going to win the division. Why do we want to fucking win the division? We want to get right for the playoffs and then just go on a run. And they're going to be getting older if they keep all these guys, but I think that that's kind of just going to be what you're going to see from them. Every year we're going to talk about, okay, well, now it's Tampa, now it's Toronto, or maybe even Boston gets back in the picture, and you're like, okay, there's a new dog coming. But as long as they have these key pieces, and I agree with you, Greg, the biggest question is going to be, what are they going to do at goaltender in the coming years? But as long as they figure that out and they keep cap flexibility, they are going to be at the very least lurking for the next 6 years.
Right. And I think it's being a little bit underappreciated what kind of a playoff Bobrovsky did have. I think he would have been, I don't know where he finished in the Conn Smythe voting. I would guess 3rd or 4th, maybe. He would have been a challenger to win that trophy, except the Panthers behind him or in front of him score 94 goals in 23 games. They average more than 4 goals a game. And they were the first to score in 5 straight games in this final. So they never put Bobrovsky in a situation where he goes into a game panicked that he can only give up 1 or 2 goals to have any shot. He knows that his team can score 4 or 5 goals routinely. And so that's why I think he's been underappreciated for what a terrific series and a terrific final he had. But to your point, and to my earlier point, how much longer can you count on him? Bobrovsky was not particularly popular down here even a couple of years ago, but he had a renaissance. He made a late career comeback. The question is, how much longer can they count on that lasting?
Are you surprised by how good the Panthers looked over the course of these playoffs? I mean, Brad Marchand mentioned it after they win that like people doubted them in every round, and DJ mentioned the regular season results were fine to good, but like they emerged as the clear best team in the league over the
Yeah.
course of the postseason. You got a dominant defensive first team that ends up scoring like 5 goals a game in the Cup final. Were you surprised by how this looked in Florida's favor?
Um, I wasn't, because they had health on their side. Edmonton obviously was missing probably their third best player. Florida, uh, 2 cups ago against Vegas when they lost, they were terribly injured. They were playing guys with broken bones, and it only came out afterward how badly they were hurt. In this series, Kachuk wasn't healthy going into the series off that Four Nations face-off injury, and they weren't sure he was going to make it through the Tampa series, the opening round, but he did, and he got better and better. And I think Kachuk in the last 4 games looked the best he's looked in months. Reinhart has an injury in the Carolina series, but by the time the final comes around, he's totally healthy. So they were healthier than they've ever been toward the very end of the season when they needed to be, and that's unusual in this league. And they got really lucky in that respect. And they're just a fit team. I don't know what kind of a regimen they've got, but even a player like Marchand comes in here at his age, and he's pretty amazed by what he sees around him, not just in the camaraderie and the fun they have, but in the fitness, in the leadership, in the experience in that room. It was just everything coming together right. I mean, this was absolutely the best team in this league. But as you stated, they finished like 11th in the league in best regular season record. They didn't have home ice advantage in any of the 4 rounds. They didn't care in the least. They go 10-3 on the road in this playoffs and outscore their opponents 61-31. 2-1 ratio on the road, set a record, tie a record for most road wins in a postseason, set a record for most goals scored. So this is a team that it didn't matter where they played, they had the same confidence going in.
I'm going to force in some media talk with you to wrap this up, just because I appreciate you so much as a columnist, and I love columnists, and I think that it is a dying. I think that like columnists are dying off, because
Yes.
the new "where do you get your opinion from" is becoming the loud person with the podcast. And granted, you have a very good podcast yourself, but like, how do you feel about the state of the columnist in North America right now?
You stated it correctly. Newspapers, at least the print version of newspapers, is dying, and with them, the old columnists are dying. When I go into a press box now, it's me and like 2 other old guys, and we're like a brotherhood almost, because we're a dying breed, almost literally a dying breed. And
Pete was saying that before the show. Yeah.
it's weird because we used to have 2 or 3 columnists on our staff back when our staff was like 35 writers, and now we're down to 8 writers and me in terms of an opinion columnist, and that's the way it is throughout all of the large papers in the country. The large papers have gotten smaller, the staffs have gotten smaller, the travel budget's gotten smaller, and the old timey newspaper columnist like myself is a dying breed. But I think every once in a while, augmented by being podcasters as well, and having a voice, not just a word, helps keep us alive. Because through the Lebitard show, through my own podcast, I think I'm known for more than just the guy who's written for years for the Miami Herald. Now people can actually hear what I talk about as well, and once they hear me, maybe they have more respect for my mental acuity. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, I mean, the McOverrated column aged about as well as it possibly could have. That's what Sean said. And honestly, you've aged about as well as you possibly could have through this whole thing, because I started out thinking you're senile, and now I feel like you're going to live forever because you are sharp as a tack, my friend.
I appreciate that. I would have liked it more had you worn your white hat just in my honor, but nevertheless, I thank you for having me on. You're right. I got damn lucky with the McOverrated thing. And I'm the first one who's going to admit that. I mean, if McDavid has just got done winning his second straight Stanley Cup, my opinion does not age well in the least. And but right now it's aging pretty well. And I hate for that to be at his expense. I hate for it to sound like gloating because I'm not, or I'm trying not to be. And he didn't lose. Granted, he did not have a good final. I didn't think 1 goal, 5 assists. He only had 2 points in the last 4 games. He pretty much disappeared, but it was the Panthers who made him disappear, and a Selke winning Barkov on him, defending him, who helped make him disappear. So I give full credit to the Panthers and barely any blame to McDavid. He was just the great individual who got beat by the great team.
I completely agree with you. It's very easy because like we're people, and when we watch sports, something that we cannot do, we try to make it relatable to us. So when somebody fails, we say, "Well, what would it be if I failed?" It means I didn't try hard enough, or it means like I fucked up. But sometimes one team is better than the other one. And I saw when we were doing our thing after this, people were saying like, "Man, the Oilers really choked this or whatever." And that just takes away from what the Panthers did. Like I don't think the Oilers choked. I don't think McDavid choked. I think that he was trying his very hardest, and I think that he went up against a deeper team that, as you said, has multiple Selke guys up there. Even like back in his day, and I know they weren't on the ice a lot at the same time. Like Brad Marchand, one of the great two-way forwards of his time. Sam Reinhart also there. So they played a better team. The better team won. But McOverrated is a bar.
It is a bar. And like, I think, to your point that you were making, and like, we generally agreed with the spirit of what you were saying, just not the McOverrated tag.
Yeah.
And if you are heading down a path of a legacy of the best ever, I think you do have to, even if you're playing great defensive teams, like at some point, if you are the greatest ever, you have to not be contained, whether it's by an unbelievable defensive team on the other side. So like, if you are going to poke holes in the legacy, and that is the job of a columnist such as yourself, now, like, I'll ask you, a columnist, do you think that McDavid now needs to win 2 versus 1 to avoid the, well, he's lost more than he's won kind of argument?
Yeah, I mean that's something that's going to confront him. And the analogy I would use is Aaron Rodgers, who goes a long time being the greatest quarterback to never win a Super Bowl, or one of them. Then he wins a Super Bowl, and then all of a sudden the narrative is that's it. You're Aaron Rodgers. You're that good. You only win one Super Bowl, and that narrative is following him to the end of his career. So if McDavid wins one, but then all of a sudden he's in his 16th year, still scrambling to win that second one, that's going to chase him as well. But one, you got to get that ice monkey off your back. You have to win one, not if you're Joe Nobody, but if you're Connor McDavid. And everybody else, I know he's a pretty cocky guy from everything I've heard, but it's everybody else calling him McJesus and saying he's the next Gretzky and the GOAT and best. And people in hockey talk about he's the greatest in the game, as if nobody's second. And that's sort of what I push back on. But Lebitard on his show today uh, tried to get me to say that McDavid choked in this final. He didn't. He had a very quiet final by his standard, but the Panthers had an awful lot to do with that. I think the Panthers right now are a generational team in the NHL, meaning for the last 4 years and maybe for the next few going forward, they're at a time right now where they are simply the best. And it has coincided with McDavid getting a little bit older, getting at least to the midsection of his career, and facing this team he just can't beat.
McDavid is the fucking best, though. He's you can push back on greatest and everything because of the winning and everything. He is so much fucking better than everybody. God, I want the new season to start. I want to watch him play again. He's so fucking good, man.
Hey, listen, I'm not going to, I can't argue with what you just said because I've seen it firsthand for a couple of years now. And I'm going to admit, as a general columnist, not a full-time hockey writer, I'm not watching Edmonton regular season games in January. I got to be honest. But McDavid, I mean, I go back to that one play, I forget what game it was, where he's slaloming through Barkov and Ekblad and then doing that little juke, and it was the most gorgeous goal. It was the greatest 5 seconds of hockey artistry that I've seen in a long time, and that's him. And he's got such speed. Every time he touches the puck, you feel it in the arena. That's the guy. It's like when Michael Jordan had the ball with 3 seconds left in a game. It was that kind of a feeling, a magical feeling. And his greatness is that high, and so high that it makes the lack of a Stanley Cup all the more glaring and all the more newsworthy. Panthers winning 2 straight Stanley Cups was a big national story. I think a bigger story in hockey might have been that McDavid's drought continues. I don't know how you guys feel. Which was the bigger story nationally, not just in the U.S., but in Canada? Was it Florida winning a second straight, or is it McDavid still no cup?
I mean, I think nationally in Canada, they're going to be like, the drought continues for all of us.
Right.
But locally, the biggest story is that Greg Cote just compared Connor McDavid to Michael Jordan. So we will get him out on that. Thank you very much, my friend. You are welcome on this show anytime, provided Pete says okay.
Okay. Green light from me. I love you, pal. This has been unbelievable. What a twist that I end up loving you at the end of all of this.
I'm telling you, it's just such a happy ending. It's just merry. I'm feeling joyful.
Tell your
Thanks,
listeners
guys.
to stop tanking our ratings on podcasts because they are commenting that kind of thing and giving us 0 stars.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'll get right on that.
All right, you're the best.
Appreciate you.
Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, guys.
Oh.
We all silly like the mayor.